Ethereum has already got tested a proof of work change if the miners get shitty. If miners get too shitty, we're changing to proof of work. Fuck you guys. And they've already like put forks in the code where the community said, all right, miners are going to get paid less. And then they just pay the miners less and the miners take it. Awesome. That's a better setup. That's a better ecosystem. So you're getting higher throughput with less pollution, with a more decentralized mining ecosystem, with more backup plans that are already tested to take over if the miners get shitty, with scaling already done, with bug bounties already done, and more developers and working on smarter stuff. All the ZK rollup guys, all the scaling guys are all working in Ethereum ecosystem. I mean, some of them are doing their like other like Ethereum killer plays. Or
one
whatever.
thing I wanted to ask you about, Richard, sorry on that pitch. I think you gave a pretty good pitch overall on it, and even tackled on a few things. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you here in this case, and actually maybe you can build on this in the sense of scalability, is I remember a while back, you were pretty, like, especially back in the day when you were really big on Bitcoin, big on proof of work. Yeah. Obviously with ETH 2.0, I'm in the boat that it's going to take a long time to get there.
Sure.
Everyone I've talked to, yeah. So basically, I'm just curious, do you think in this case, like, going to proof of stake is a better step for Ethereum in this case, or do you just think it's
depends.
Maybe, yeah.
I think it will, like, I think it'll be very late because all software is very late, and it always has been and always will be. So I think it'll be very late. I do think we already have proof that federated models with reduced security, reduced censorship resistance, but higher throughput are totally functional. For instance, EOS. EOS is just, 21 guys deciding whether they want to let you keep your money or not. And that's it. And usually they do. And so, look, that system hasn't failed yet. We have other proof of stake and distributed proof of stake systems that have not been hacked, which just show that this particular vector of attack, it's not a thing. And by the way, proof of work, it's actually just proof of stake in electric bills and hardware bills.
Yeah.
So it's just an alternate proof of stake. The difference is that you don't have like the nothing at stake attack where you say all chains are valid, but really only one of them was, but since you said yes to everything, you got paid anyway. Like, so but you cure that through slashing, which is people put up a security bond, and if they catch you saying shit that ain't right, they prove it, then they take your money. So, exactly. So it's like, there's also problems with the economics. So Hex solved staking. They're still trying to figure staking out from an incentive perspective. So they're trying to decide how much you should get paid, right? And there's risk. If you have any type of hardware downtime, you're losing money. If you have a cosmic ray do a bit shift on your CPU, you're losing money. Like, and if you see the test nets, people have lost money on the test nets, and they just end up getting fucked. So if you want to, Vitalik has a video called "So You Want to Be a Casper Validator," and it explains all the ways, and it's really actually hard, and it's a job. So the difference, like staking Hex, you just lock it, and then you don't have to do anything. But staking ETH, you have to run a server farm and keep the uptime and hope that nothing goes wrong, or you will lose money. And keeping computers up, it's a full-time job. It's not easy at all. And because people hand that work off to other people and introduce a centralization. So it's like, I don't care if it works or not. Like, I'm happy with the way Ethereum works now. Yes, we have these spikes for fees, but those spikes for fees cause more buy pressure and cause the price to go up. So when did Bitcoin make all-time highs? When fees were at all-time highs. And when did Ethereum make all-time highs? When fees were at all-time highs. So all-time high fees is the price you pay for a bull run. So for me, it's like an okay trade. If we can get USDT onto more L2 stuff, because it's not decentralized anyway. They print by accident $1 billion and then take it back away. They've done that. They're like, oops, we printed an extra $1 billion. Our bad. We'll just delete this. That's how secure that system is. Since it's fake secure anyway, you can put that on L2, no problem, and then that would take away about 25% of the transactions off of Ethereum, like this. And those transactions don't actually add value to the Ethereum network because they used to run on Omni, and Omni only did $200 a day volume, didn't do shit for the Omni price, so they ain't doing shit for the Ethereum price. So I would love to see the Tether transactions offloaded onto an L2, and that would leave more space for everybody else that really needs the decentralization. And then if we could get Uniswap, which I think is like 60% of all of the gas usage now, Uniswap V2, if we could get that onto an L2 of some sort, then that would help.
It's literally going to be all we need, man, in order to buy time until some kind of layer 2 solution. That's the thing that I was kind of talking to people about is it's like, I think so many people are hyped up about, they're excited about ETH 2.0, but the point I constantly bring up is that any investor that I talk to, any Ether developer, anyone in the community that actually has a know of what's going on and is realistic and not overtly optimistic is saying that this is going to be, even Vitalik, he said it on the interview with Peter McCormack, this is going to be something over the next few years that we're looking to do. Like, so this is not coming in 2021, maybe the early stages.
You don't need it. Like the shit works great now.
But that's the thing.
You know?
Exactly. It's layer two. Layer two is the interest point here. And the problem is it was really, to be honest, Richard, what I looked for over these last few years is I know it's going to be very difficult to solve that kind of blockchain dilemma where you have the three corners in this case that you have to worry about. But in this case, it's a matter of who gets to layer two scaling quicker and who does it properly. And optimism,
if everyone uses optimism, everyone will do it at the same time because it's already pre-rolled for you. You can just be like, copy paste the code onto the L2 server. You know,
it's so easy to onboard everything that people have already worked on. It saves a ton of time, and I think it's going to be basically, as you mentioned, due to the openness of it, in the sense that it'll be well tested and rigorous by the time it goes on to mainnet, and most of the big applications will be using it. I mean, dude, it's going to basically bring way down to single digits consistently, which is going to be really exciting. Yeah. Now maybe there'll be some spams or something on the network. We saw that once, I think, back here in 2020, but it was like outside of that, I mean, it'll be great. I mean, fees will be down to nothing, and it'll be back to where Ethereum used to be, but also all of the functionality that people are used to with lightning fast swaps, where you don't have to go through a centralized exchange. Whereas you mentioned, in this case, you have access to any token you want in this case. And I think it's a really
can't get cross chain so easy, but everything on the ERC20 network, sure,
yeah. And again, in that case, I think we've seen, whether, again, as you talked about, Richard, I think about the risk of it in this case with Wrap Bitcoin. I think it's just a signal of what's
it's better than leaving it on fucking Quadriga CX.
Exchange. Yeah,
you know?
And that's the whole thing, is that I think people are already pretty comfortable with trusting people to hold their assets. So I think that, again, Wrap Bitcoin, it's kind of a necessary evil in the short term to get that liquidity towards somewhere where it's earning kind of yield rather than,
And I tell you something else. The system of having a swap instead of a normal exchange is that when you use a swap, you're forced to take custody again instantly. And that's a big deal because the float is what gets attacked. If you send some money to Quadriga CX and then you place some limit orders and then you wait, you're at risk while you're waiting. And then if your limit orders get hit and then you remember to log in and then you withdraw your money, there's a lot of and thens. But on a swap system, your counterparty risk, which is nothing, you don't have any counterparty risk, but you do have like this much smart contract risk, it's over with quickly, and you can iterate. You can just do smaller trades, one after the other, and then if it fucks up, it only fucks up the last one, and you're just golden. Like you're in and out so much quicker that your attack surface is so much smaller. It will save millions of dollars of money for people, millions of dollars. And now that the thickest order book in the world for Ethereum USDC is on Uniswap, you're getting a better order execution. You're getting less slippage, period.
One thing I wanted to build, just to build on it, Richard. I think people don't understand the full scale benefits with Uniswap. So this is something I've talked about a lot on my channel. So first off, as you've already hit on, Richard, like obviously you have self-custody in this case by default. There is no way where Uniswap is holding your funds outside of being a liquidity provider in this case. Outside of that, though, if you're just making swaps, it's completely non-custodial. And outside of that as well, I mean, that's the face value benefit, but there's also a ton of different benefits. So take, for example, I use Coinbase Pro as an example, like a well-respected used exchange here in the United States. Coinbase Pro charges 0.5% for fees right now. Uniswap by default charges a liquidity provider fee of 0.3%, lower than a professional trading platform in the US that most people rely on. Along with that as well, notice how many times when you're trying to make those trades, whether you're trading spot or whether you're trading derivatives or on a margin, it just happens to be that every time there's a major price move, oh, we got server maintenance. Oh, we got to shut down. We got to fix something real quick.
Coinbase can't live through a 5% move. A 5% move knocks Coinbase over every fucking time.
Yeah, and again, I not naming names in this case. It's like it's pretty much a lot of exchanges. I mean, this has happened across the board. And again, this is another net benefit that people don't talk about with DEXs, or more specifically Uniswap. Uniswap may have high gas fees, right? In this case, until we get to later.
They're actually extremely low gas fees if you compare them to anything else.
No, exactly. Compared to other DEXs, that's very true against Kyber, against Banker, any DEX out there, 0x. It is the most efficient way to do swaps, hands down. But even like, for example,
L1 was a little bit more efficient, but you couldn't do arbitrary ERC to ERC20 pairs. Everything had to talk to ETH. Precisely. If you're just trading for ETH and you just care about gas, you can get almost half the gas price on Uniswap V1. But if you're trading like non-ETH base pair, then it's better on V2. You'll get less slippage. It's a better deal.
Exactly. Yes. So people make the argument about fees in that case and stuff. And yeah, that might be true in regards to maybe if you have a high network demand. But the biggest thing above all is making sure, and I realized this, running Digifox and just constantly taking feedback from people. People don't care about paying anywhere from 1% to 3% fees on things. They care most of all about getting execution. And when you're on those volatile moments where your Bitcoin or Ether on a centralized exchange is not accessible because they have 500 people who are trying to run an entire system that's now somehow not working. And then on something like Uniswap, you have a team of 6 to 7 people who have a smart contract on an immutable network that's constantly churning and running. I mean, there's a massive benefit to that. Constant uptime.
And Hex is at 100% uptime.
Yeah. So that's one thing, again.
It's done a fair amount of volume, too.
No, I agree with you, Richard. I think above all, it's the cool thing is that this is kind of building a new standard where everything's going to be up. It's always going to be accessible. Anyone can tap into it. And that's honestly the vision that I love to see. It's what crypto is all about.
Agree.
And it's going to set a whole new dynamic for how finance works, I think, in the long run.
Agree 100%. I would love to see the CEXs, CEX, centralized exchanges, just basically disappear, except for the regulatory arbitrage of being able to on-ramp people with fiat. I would love to see that.
One thing, well, and to that point, Richard, we do that with Digifox. So, like, again, even though, for example, in some areas there are still restrictions, in this case due to some specific states or countries, you basically have to go through the standard KYC through Digifox if you want to on-ramp through one of our providers. We tap into a variety of different providers, from bank deposits to debit cards, and you can also make traditional crypto deposits.
I mean, you're not doing the standard Uniswap wire.
MoonPay, so
MoonPay,
so basically.
Wire with a W, or rather WYRE, and then there's like 3 or 4 that like everybody uses. Indicoin for foreign cards, Simplex for local USA cards.
Yeah, so we don't use Simplex. Simplex is way too far out there. At the moment, we do use MoonPay, and we use a new interface for Wire, which improves the experience a lot more. We're actually getting rid of those, and hopefully by January, we're expecting to have a whole new on-ramp network that's going to be better than any smart wallet out there interface to DeFi. So we're very excited about it. It's one thing we've been working pretty extensively on. But using providers that have 0 fees for bank deposits, or at least dramatically reduce it, and also for debit card fees getting cut in half as well.
I got to tell you, this is a sticking point. So people ask me, hey, Richard, how do I buy Hex? I'm like, buy ETH and then turn it into Hex, because it's just more available everywhere. And then they're like, all right, well, how do I buy ETH? And then it's like, shit. Well, you could either set up a Bitstamp account or try the Transact widget if you're in the USA, or if you're doing Euro or Swiss or GBP wires, or you could use Indicoin if you're using cards outside the USA, or you could try Changelly, which then you could try Ramp and Apple Pay and Wire. That's a long, shitty, like 8 option answer that sucks. I mean, so like ideally, I'd love to have a dev build a widget that's just like, where do you live? Okay.
Yeah.
Where's your money coming from? Okay.
Yeah.
These are your options, and here's the best deal.
Yeah, and you'll be able to build that, Richard, I think, most definitely, and stuff. Again, you can pull from those different providers you mentioned, but we do the same thing. We utilize the area code of someone's phone. We're going to be probably working on a better system. We're going to be pulling from a few different points in that case that we can work with, but again, also respecting data privacy.
And it's hard because half those providers, their states just drop out. So like if you use Wire with a WYRE, they don't handle, like, there's like 10 states they just can't do. You know?
Actually, there's a variety of states. We have team along some of the East Coast and stuff, and sadly some of us have to use either another on-ramp service or just do debit card deposits. So in that case, there's a lot of other things we route people to. As you mentioned, sometimes you have to rely on the exchange, but I'm telling you, man, the next year or two, when those on-ramp systems get a little bit better, I think it's going to be massive.
Maybe PayPal solves this. maybe fucking can you wire PayPal money? I think you can. Maybe PayPal solves this shit. I've even heard, so like apparently when you send your money to these exchanges, they just won't give you your crypto for 5 days. Like apparently Coinbase just will not give you your crypto unless it's USDC. Correct. If it's USDC,
it depends. Apparently. Yeah. So for USDC, it depends. So Coinbase, from my knowledge, has about a 5-day limitation. pretty much on like you can basically receive your USDC instantly into your Coinbase account, but they only allow you to trade it with inside assets to the platform, from my knowledge. Right. Don't quote me on that. I think the whole thing though is you cannot withdraw because there's the credit risk of basically making a bank transfer, canceling it, or like, something going wrong. Yeah.
In the good old days, you could. God damn it, that's 5-day hold shit's relatively new. I mean, I haven't had to buy crypto in a while, so I'm not really like, you know. Apparently, if you use the Cash app, you can get Bitcoin actually delivered in your hand faster, and then you could like wrap it in ren bridge.renvm or whatever, and then put it into ETH, you know, or use Changelly or whatever, right? So like I think if you actually want to take delivery, like one of the fastest ways is the Cash app, apparently.
I didn't know you could actually move your Bitcoin out of Cash App. That's something that's actually kind of new to me.
I think so. I mean, unless that's what I've heard. I mean, look, I haven't done it, but this is what my chat tells me, and they're usually on point.
Interesting. Yeah, and I know that, above all, the debit cards, to my knowledge, were always like the quick, if you wanted to get into a token of some sort, if you were looking to do swaps, or for example, in your case, Hexa, in that case, the best would be for debit cards for sure. You can get pretty much near instant settlement for that. In a lot of areas. There's some areas, like for example, we had some users in like South Africa who it was taking like a full 24 hours in that case, but it has to do with people don't understand how complex the debit card and banking network, the back end is to make all of this work. It's a total mess. And it's the same problem with centralized exchanges as we talked about, Richard.
Yep. Hey, at least Visa doesn't fucking exit scam you. Like if you've got like that's the nice part. Like if you have deposits on OKX right now, you can't get your money out. Period. And OKX is huge. Fucking huge. Like when you go in like the Bitcoin rich list and you look at the sizes of cold wallets, I think OKX has the largest cold wallet in the world. So the fact that no one can withdraw, kind of a fucking problem, you know?
Yeah, I mean OKX, services a variety of markets, but that exchange and BitThumb really tap into Korea and a lot of regions where, I mean, dude, it's commonplace where you have like usually older folks in this case who probably aren't as in tune with crypto, holding like a decent size position, and they talk about it in the cafe. They show it to one another. This is what I'm holding today. And I've talked to some of the Korean YouTubers who are a bit on the kind of speculation side of things. Right. And man, dude, like they're even blown away by it. It's a cultural thing there. And it's
we've been on a Korean exchange for a while, and I just yesterday got my first like Korean language question in main chat. So we had like a t.me/hex core, like we had a Korean chat that people were playing with in a while. It seems dead to me now. But then I was like having to Google Translate answers to this dude, you know?
Yeah.
Because we got Chinese users, but we don't really have many. I don't think we have any Korean users. This would be like I guess we do, but I don't know them, you know? So I can't like tag them. Like, hey, I know this guy speaks Korean or whatever.
Yeah.
They do FOMO hard as fuck over there. The Koreans, FOMO. Hard.
Well, it's very it's common in a lot of areas of the world where like speculation is definitely ingrained a lot into the culture. It was the reason in China for the 2015 Shanghai composite bubble that was basically built off retail volume. And this is something that I always kind of emphasize with what we're seeing now in equities. A lot of people kind of scuff that, you know, retail investors aren't playing a role in it because their liquidity size is so small. But the thing is that they do something that institutions don't, and they market buy. So they're constantly marking buy and clearing through any asks. And this causes a secondary effect where institutions